Welcome to the Sports Lounge. I'm Travis Kriens. We got Marcus Traxler, the blue man right there. We got Mr. Hildebrand. We got Mr. Stacken. We got plenty of college football. I remember this time last week. I listened to this show last year at this very date, and we were talking all about Mississippi football, so we're going to talk about Mississippi football yet again. A 38-23 win for Mississippi State. They, again, beat another highly ranked squad, the third straight team they've beaten that's been in the top 10, even though only one of those teams are currently in the top 10, and only one of those teams will probably finish the year anywhere near the top 10. And then you have Ole Miss. They beat Texas A&M on the road. They beat them by 2 touchdowns. And Mr. Schottenkirk joins us as well. Mr. Hildebrand, who are you more impressed by thus far?
Overall, I'd say Mississippi State. I'd say individually, I'm most impressed with the Ole Miss defense, but overall, I'd say Ole Miss because, as you said, LSU. Safe to say that they're probably not going to finish the year in the top 10, but they did win at LSU, which is impressive. A&M, I think they're good. I don't think they're going to finish in the top 10 either, but they're still good. They won again. And then beating Auburn yesterday, making Auburn look pedestrian, and just either way, talented conference foes in a row. And, essentially kind of handling your business pretty easily in all 3 of them. I mean, I get that LSU made a comeback towards the end, but they've looked really good. And if I guess I would say whoever your favorite team is, hope that they don't have to play Mississippi State this year.
Mr. Schottenkirk, do you now believe in any of these teams? Both of them? Yes.
Well, yeah, kind of, but it's still... I've been so wrong so many times already this year that it's just it's amazing to me where we're at, and it's only October here. If I had to choose one of them right now, it would be Mississippi State. They have shown me more. Ole Miss defense has been great, but I would like to see more to the offense, more consistency. We'll see how it goes in the next few weeks, but no matter what happens, it looks like that Egg Bowl is going to be very good.
It's as you mentioned, the Ole Miss defense is why.
Or I was just going to say that I like the Ole Miss defense, but I get the sense that at some point Dr. Bo Wallace is going to come out and throw like 5 interceptions one of these games like he's done in the past.
Yeah, the defense for Ole Miss has been the reason why they've won these games, and the offense for Mississippi State's been the reason that they've won. I see Mississippi State as that good offensive team whose defense, they get turnovers. They get the big momentum swings. That's how they succeed. And Ole Miss, that defense is what gets them the wins. The Mississippi State-Auburn game, I watched that. Entertaining game. Mississippi State gets up early with those turnovers. I expected Auburn to score a little more points than they did. Came awfully close there at the end of making it a very, very interesting game in the final couple of minutes. The Mississippi State defense, they use a lot of players. They rotate them in, they rotate them out, they keep them fresh. Is this, Mr. Stacken, is this a recipe for success here, this rotation on the defense that Mississippi State does?
Well, it didn't look like it when Auburn was getting back into the game that second half or in the second quarter. I know the Gary Danielson and Vern Lundquist were both bringing that up, and then they started bringing in the first rotation. We'll see where it goes. It only works as long as they keep winning. When they lose a game because of it, then that's when people are going to have issues with it. To me, I think Ole Miss had as good as Mississippi State's win was yesterday. They were really sloppy in the second quarter that allowed Auburn to get back into that game. Had that been down in Auburn, I don't think Mississippi State would have held on to win that game with that lead. Ole Miss going into Texas A&M really showed me something, and I thought they were the overall more impressive team yesterday.
We had the college pick'em, and there was one person here who picked Mississippi State to win. That would be Mr. Stacken. Why did you feel this way? You gave them 1 confident point, so you were not very confident, but you did pick them. What was it about Mississippi State and Auburn that you decided to go against everybody else?
I'm starting to become a big believer in Dak Prescott, and with the game at home, I thought that would tilt it in Mississippi State's favor. Still not buying exactly Auburn everything that they're doing, being that best team. Had it been in Auburn, I would have picked Auburn, but Mississippi State seemed to have the mojo going for them. So I elected to take them.
There was a play here in the first half. It was a 4th and 2 deep in their own territory, deep in Mississippi State's territory. They'd elect to fake punt on a 4th and 2 near the 30, up 3 touchdowns. This is when the game kind of swung. This is when I think Auburn got a field goal out of it. But Mr. Hildebrand, if you saw this play, and they asked Dan Mullen about this at the half, why in the hell would you fake punt on a 4th and 2 on your own 30 in the second quarter?
Yeah, I did see that. I missed the second half because I was at work, but I did see that, and I was quite surprised, especially when you're already up by, I think it was either 21-0 or 21-3. Yep. So, either way, you're up 3 scores in the second quarter. I was quite surprised they did that. I got the sense that was going to be what led Auburn back into the game and thought Auburn would capitalize. Part of that's probably because I picked Auburn to win. But, certainly if it would have worked out that way, they would have looked really bad. I don't know why you would do. I agree. If it's something you see on film, it's a little bit different, and if it's a close game, it's different. But when you're up, like you said, 3 scores in the second quarter on your own side of the field, and you're playing really well, I don't know. I don't get it, but it ended up not mattering because they won anyways.
And they asked him about it, Dan Mullen, and he said, well, we're trying to win, and we're going to go for the win here. And we're like, Jesus Christ, guy, you're not down 3 touchdowns. You're up 3 touchdowns. Auburn has proved in the early part of the game they couldn't hang on to the ball, so why even give them a sniff at an opportunity of a scoring chance? And they got 3 instead of 7, so they're fortunate there. But really a dumb call, and the way they ended that LSU game was not very good. And so Mississippi State 3-0 in this stretch. I thought they'd lose all 3, and they won all 3. So now they have 3 unranked teams, so we'll see how they handle that schedule there. Ole Miss going on the road versus Texas A&M. That A&M defense is as awful as it was last year, not very good. When you look at Ole Miss, does it come down to their quarterback? And if he plays well, their defense is good enough to where they're probably gonna win 10, 11 games. Mr. Schottenkirk.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's absolutely the key. I think another dynamic there would be their running game, or lack thereof. They're not very consistent. I would like to see more out of that. I think if Bo Walls keeps it intact, keeps it the game plan under control, it would be pretty surprising to me if they didn't continue, because that defense is doing some special things, and it's taking a reverse course here. Dallas is going to beat Seattle, and that shocks the living hell out of me. But anyways.
As it does me. And just for the record, I still expect Dallas to finish at 8-8. So until they win 9 games, I expect them to win 8-8. And it is quite surprising. This is the same Ole Miss team that was ahead of Boise State 7-6 with 12 minutes left on opening weekend. So somehow Ole Miss and their defense continue to play well. Upsets, we like upsets. And Charlie, we TCU Oklahoma. I asked you, and you said, "Well, I'll give you TCU," and TCU won. Navy Ohio State. I like Navy early on, and they kept up with Navy for 3 quarters. That was fun to watch. There's a game in 2 weeks here that I am very intrigued by. You have Mississippi State at Kentucky. Kentucky is 5-1. Kentucky has not played anybody, but they have beaten everybody. They're at LSU this week. Mississippi State, number 1 in the country, highest ranking by far ever, with a week off after this hellacious stretch. What do you think if I say Kentucky, Mississippi State in Lexington in 2 weeks? Does that game interest you as much as it does me?
I would say it interests me a little bit, granted, and I like your thought process of them being ranked number 1 and having time off, and the kind of classic getting everyone patting you on the back and saying how great you are and overlooking them. I don't think Kentucky's going to be the one that beats them. I think it'd be great to watch, and it would be quite funny. I don't know. Since Kentucky lost to South Carolina and or maybe no, that was sorry. I'm thinking Vanderbilt. That was I get Vanderbilt and Kentucky mixed up a lot. But being that they lost to Florida, and Florida looks really bad, I think if you get it right, I'm gonna have to find a way to send you like a coupon for, like some Funyuns or something, because that'd be quite impressive if they won, if Kentucky wins. And I hope they do. I like those blue uniforms in football.
They're sharp. They're real sharp. They lost at Florida in 3 OT, so we are very close to having a 6-0 Kentucky team here on the season, halfway through. So that is intriguing, Mr. Stacken.
And they play in the East, which is a huge advantage this year.
They hold the cards in their hands. Their destiny is in their hands. So if they win out, Kentucky is your representative. Mr. Stacken, Mississippi State, are they're a good team, better than they have been in a long time. Are they fortunate, though, in that LSU, this is the worst LSU team that we've seen, especially on the defensive end, in many years. Texas A&M's defense is bad. They're definitely a beatable team. And the Alabama team that they got coming up here in a month, this is the worst Alabama team, at least offensively, in a long, long time. Auburn, I think Auburn is still very good. I think Auburn's one of the top 2-3 teams in the country. But is there a case to be made here that Mississippi State this is the year for Mississippi State to strike, because we got some of the top teams. This is the down year for LSU, maybe in Alabama. Is this the time for Mississippi State?
It certainly could be. Again, more of a believer in Ole Miss with Bo Wallace and that Landshark defense.
How did that get that name? What the hell is this about?
They had some former Army guy play football for him, and he would do this, I guess, during the games and stuff, and he died a little while back, and they just kept sticking with him. Reason to honor him, and I guess they said that they don't ever want to get close to Sharks. I think that Ole Miss defense is outstanding, though. They really showed me something against Texas A&M. I'm very anxious to see that Egg Bowl in November. That's going to be a great game.
I love eggs more than anybody, and hopefully these teams are still in contention at the end of the year. Again, these games were SEC defensive battles, 38-23 and 35-20. Really won in the trenches, really close defensive scores. So that's good to see. Where does Auburn go from here? They got a hell of a schedule. They got all the ranked teams on the road. They have the unfortunate task of playing at Georgia, the one team in the West or in the East that's worth a shit. If they go the rest of the way winning this thing, I think they're still in the playoff here. But could a case be made? A 2-loss Auburn team, do they have any chance here at the end of the year, Mr. Schottenkirk?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think Mississippi State or Ole Miss, one of those two teams, is going to have 0-1 loss, and you're not going to get two teams out of the same division in the playoff. That said, I would put a pretty decent percentage chance that Auburn does run the table. I think, honestly, what I see happening, believe it or not, is I see Bama and Auburn playing each other at 10-1 at the end of the year. I think that Iron Bowl is still going to be a very, very important game. I think Bama, their toughest games remain in Mississippi State's at home. I think they win that. And then, like I said, Auburn, if they come in at 10-1, that'll determine who goes to the SEC championship, and more than likely the SEC representative in the playoff. But it's setting up where there's all sorts of different scenarios. There could be two teams in the SEC. I don't want to see it, but it seems certainly possible with everything else going around the country right now.
Yeah, no,
at this point, I'm all about.
It's all going to depend, who wins and loses in the other conferences too. But you mentioned the Iron Bowl, and certainly there can be a lot of things that change between now and then. But it's just crazy to me how very quickly the Iron Bowl's gone from like the best game in the world, last year, and for the foreseeable future, to all of a sudden it's not even going to be the best game that weekend because the Egg Bowl looks like the best game. Now, granted, like you said, there's a lot of stuff to be played, and there's a pretty good chance Auburn and Alabama could win the rest of their games until then. But it's just funny how quickly things have changed in the state of Mississippi this year.
Yeah, I really want two teams from the West in the SEC to make that playoff. Just to, I don't know, if people are pissed off by that, then that's what I'm for the uniqueness. Because I mean, my God, you got 4 teams here in the top 7, and I mean that's just it's on pace to be one of the better divisions of all time. So we'll see if these teams can stay the pace here. The other, if it wasn't for that Mississippi State. Not that the game was all that good; it was entertaining. But probably the most entertaining game of the deal was a 120-point shootout. This was a goddamn shootout. 61-58. TCU blows a 3-touchdown lead with about 11 minutes to go at Baylor. Baylor, they pull through. Field goal kickers be damned. They get it done. They're at West Virginia. They've got the big test at Oklahoma. Did you come out of this game more impressed with Baylor or TCU, Mr. Stacken?
I'll be honest, I did not see this game entirely. Had to go work at the Jacks game. Was flipping back and forth between that game and the Mississippi State-Auburn game. But, Baylor something a little bit with being able to withstand or get back in the game after being down 21. But earlier, after hearing this piece on how Baylor's defense gets no respect, to put out that performance is pretty downright pathetic, and you're not going to score 61 points every week. But that is a very good TCU defense. Trayvon Boykin does a very good job running that offense along with Catalan at the running back position. So it was a valiant effort by TCU. But not so much as to say you deserve to be in the playoffs.
How many yards did TCU give up? Did you just say TCU had a good defense?
Not in this game. They did.
Not in this game. No, I'm not saying this game. Right. Overall, throughout the year, they've had a good defense.
Yeah, I agree.
Is the big Charlie?
To be fair, an okay defense too, but certainly not an elite defense, and they didn't play well this game either. I just mean that I think good. I think TCU's is a bit better, and they'll look better playing most other teams in the country.
The 2 pass interference calls, the one non, the one yes. Late in the game, Baylor was not called for it. TCU was called for it. David, was that the right call, or what should have happened there late in that game?
For me, it's either you call them both or you call neither. You can't not call the first one and get TCU, then come back and call the one that essentially won Baylor the game. I don't. That doesn't make any sense. You got to be consistent. I didn't like either one to call it. I didn't think the TCU one was pass interference. Everyone was freaking out. Thought it was a good play. Vice versa. Thought it was a very good play on the opposite side that they had the flag thrown. Some of that seemingly was a crowd. Some of that was seemingly home field advantage. Some of that was just crappy officiating, which we can discuss later. The officiating all across America yesterday was as bad as I've ever seen it. I watched probably parts of 6 or 7 different games for basically the whole day. It was just unbelievably bad. But long answer to wrap up here. I don't think either one of those should have been called, and it's sad to say that that very in a big way affected the outcome of that game.
I agree with that, and I would also throw in, if you TCU and you're going for it on 4th and 2, don't throw a fade 20 yards down the field to be in that position in the first place. Run a quarterback on a run-pass option instead of just saying, oh, hey, guy, try to catch this ball that you have about a 15% chance of catching, and don't leave it up to the officials in the first place. But I agree with everything Schottenkirk said, too.
Another call not quite as serious as that Mississippi State fake punt, but the one that Charlie mentioned. Midfield, a minute left. Stones on TCU to go for it there. Is that what you would have done, Charlie?
This game was on while I was at work, and I was talking about it with someone else. I think you're screwed in some ways either way if you're TCU. If you don't get it, then you're in trouble for not getting it, and you give them a short field. If you punt it, there's a pretty good chance Baylor goes down and scores anyways, and then people say, why don't you go for it? Almost always, I would say punt it, but being that Baylor's offense was as on fire as it was, like I said earlier, I would have gone for it. I would not have run a fade pass to the to the sideline. I would have tried to run, a zone read or a play action rollout pass or something like that. But if anyone wants to say they should have punted, I'm not going to say you're wrong with that either.
I would have went with the punt just because it was about, a minute 10 left, and their field goal kicker is not good. He made a couple in that game. He missed a couple. He is not good, so you got to think you probably got to get down to about the 25. So TCU struggled defensively in that game, especially in the fourth quarter. But you would like to hope that you could hold them, 50, 60 yards away from a decent field goal attempt. But the way that game was going, Baylor just marched down the field there in that fourth quarter. Is the Big Ten, is that conference better than what you thought it was 6 weeks ago? You got Kansas State, Oklahoma State, you got TCU, you got Baylor. Is that a better conference than you thought it would be? Nathan?
You say the Big Ten or the Big 12?
Big 12. Big 12.
Big 12. You know what? I think it's okay. I thought Texas had a good showing against Oklahoma yesterday in the Red River Shootout, coming up short, but they definitely outplayed Oklahoma. You got Kansas and Iowa State bringing up the rear in that conference. It's probably a little better than what I thought, but I would probably, you could make an argument that it is probably second or third billing in all of college football. Obviously, SEC number one, and I'd say you could make the argument between the Pac-12 and the Big 12.
It's clearly the third best conference in America, and that's kind of what I thought at the beginning of the season. I don't personally think there is an argument top to bottom Pac-12 and Big 12. I think there's a pretty decent gap from 1 to 2 SEC to Pac-12, and I think there's a massive gap as a conference as a whole from 2 to 3. Like I said, there's very elite teams at the top. The bottom of that conference is miserable. The middle is okay. Oklahoma State, even though they're ranked, didn't impress me very much. It hasn't all year. Just barely escaped that Kansas yesterday. It didn't inspire any confidence in me. But I think, like I said, it's exactly what I thought it was, and that's quite clearly the third best conference in America.
Nobody's really.
I think they're both good. I mean, aside from Baylor, Oklahoma, and TCU, I think all three of them are pretty good. I would say that Oklahoma State and Kansas State are kind of at that next level where I think they're both good and they could upset some teams but aren't going to make a serious run to win the conference title or the playoff. And then the only other thing I'd throw in is that the Big 12 has the biggest disadvantage in terms of conferences just because they have the fewest teams, and it's easier to have more good teams if you have 12 or 14. Now, I mean, I would still say that they're probably the third best conference overall, though.
You have Oklahoma State at TCU. Next week, loser that, their hopes are probably done. Baylor, they're on a hell of a run here. Very surprising what they've done the last 2-3 years. I don't consider them a serious contender for anything worth a damn. We've seen what happens when they play decent teams. We saw what happened yesterday. They almost lost. They probably should have lost. The Central Florida game, that was a bowl game. They gave up a boatload of points. The Oklahoma State game, that game last year, if they win that game, they're probably maybe headed to a national title with an undefeated season. Baylor, are they kind of a hollow team where they're going to put up a bunch of wins, but they're really not? They're not a serious contender for anything.
In years past, I would say yes, and even after yesterday's horrific defensive performance, and I use horrific kind of lightly because personally I don't think it was as bad as the 58 points indicated. There was a couple returns. Petty threw a pick six. I think there's one other return in there, maybe a kickoff or whatever. They allowed 450 yards or so. That's going to happen in college football these days. I think there's pieces there. Sean Oakman, defensive end or defensive tackle, 6'9", 280 pounds, is the biggest freak in America that I've seen anywhere on any college football field the last couple of years. Should be a high pick in the NFL in the next year or two. Art Briles is doing a hell of a job recruiting, defensive-wise too, and obviously offense is pretty settled with Bryce Petty at the helm. I think they're building a lot more quality depth on both sides of the ball. I'm not saying that they win a national title, but I would not be surprised at least if they run in the playoff, maybe got into the national title game because there's talent. It's just a matter of refining that talent in time.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to a big-time game like Baylor against a good team, a team that's at least as good as they are, I just don't think they can win against that team. They did surprisingly beat Oklahoma last year, only gave up 12 points. I do not think they beat Oklahoma this year. So Baylor, it's fun to watch, but I don't know if I would put them high as a contender. And they're at West Virginia next week, and Holgerson and his hair does wonders again. So
hopefully that's another
an
70-63 game like a couple years ago.
So that's an early game, and then you got
just because just because it took me a while to look this up. Baylor ran 109 plays in the game against TCU, and it took me a long time to find this, and I couldn't even find the most updated stats. But if anyone's wondering, Northwestern had the record in an Outback Bowl loss to Auburn a few years ago. They ran 115 plays.
That was
anyone's stat nerd like I am sometimes.
That was a good game as well. I remember that Northwestern Auburn. That was entertaining as well. So you got Kansas State at Oklahoma next week. Some early games. A&M at Alabama. What the hell is wrong with Alabama's offense here? Because they couldn't run the ball for shit. You're not playing the Furmans of the world now, for Christ's sake. Is this a serious goddamn problem, or what's the deal here?
No, it's not, because the first 4 weeks, obviously they weren't playing the competition level they have the last two. They were averaging 500-plus yards a game. I think they ran into very good defense at Ole Miss last week. They didn't play very well last night, second week in a row on the road. Arkansas team that was hungry and is better than people think. Arkansas should have beat A&M last week. That defense is nothing special. They just had problems blocking from the word go last night. I don't think it's a long-term issue. They've got playmakers. They've got running backs, even though they lost one. Kenyon Drake last week. There's 3 or 4 guys there that would be starting on any other team in America. Amari Cooper is probably a top 10 pick next year in the NFL draft. He's the best receiver I've seen in college. Probably since A.J. Green. He's that good. He's going to be that big of a difference maker at the professional level. It is an interesting dynamic. I'm sure there's people freaking out. They escaped last night in Fayetteville with a 1-point win, and Lane Kiffin and Saban were having some words as they walked off. And post-game, too, there's reports that they had a conversation about how that should never happen again and this and that. They're halfway into the first season together. That marriage is already becoming quite strained. It's very comical to me to watch.
You got the Pac-12. You got Arizona. Good comeback by Arizona. Couldn't quite get that done. USC. Some bad losses for USC. Some really good wins for USC. Then you have Oregon giving the boot to UCLA. UCLA, you're finished. Arizona at 5-1. Obviously, they're not the 10th best team in the country. How do you, Mr. Schottenkirk, the Big 12 or the Pac-12? What are we seeing here? You got Stanford with a loss or 2. You got Oregon still there with 1 loss. Is this any different than what you thought it would be?
In a weird way, not really. I didn't expect to have losses, multiple losses like they do. USC have 2 losses already. UCLA with a loss yesterday. Oregon, you got Stanford with multiple losses already. Oregon with a home loss against Arizona. But if you look at the standings, somehow, some way, USC's at the top of the Pac-12 South right now, which is just mind-boggling considering a loss, horrible loss at BC, and then again Hail Mary at the gun last week against Arizona State. They're still in pretty good position to potentially win that division, which is just mind-boggling to me. In the North, it's still going to come down to Oregon Stanford. It's plain and simple as that. There's nobody else up there. Oregon lost. They got their starting left tackle back. Another potential first-round pick next in the NFL draft. They didn't have him last week against Arizona. Beat the hell out of the UCLA, even though the yardage and the score was closer than it indicated. I was very impressed with their response. A couple big games coming up. USC has potential, or should be, 8-2 heading into the Notre Dame game, which would be interesting as all heck. It's one of those things where if USC had 30 more scholarship players, they would be 5-1 at worst, if not undefeated. It's really a matter of depth right now, and obviously, call me Homer, call me whatever you want, because I am. It's just last night at Arizona, the end of that game, they were running the same guys out there for 80, 90 plays, and you got a couple defensive tackles, linebackers, whatever, that don't get any break. They're out there, they're trying their up-tempo offense. That's what caught up with them. Arizona State. They shit the bed. They just got physically manhandled at Boston College. But it's crazy for me to think what a lot of other programs would have done in the last 4 or 5 years with 20, 30 less scholarship guys on the ability to play and whatever. Not to go on a tirade about the freaking sanctions again, but as a whole, wrapping it all back around, I think the Pac-12 is not as top-heavy as people thought it was. There's more quality depth. Utah's a pretty intriguing team. If they wouldn't have crapped the bed at home a couple weeks ago against Washington State, they'd be undefeated and be the talk, as a sleeper team in the country right now. So they're pretty good. I still think ultimately it comes down to the South comes down to USC, UCLA, and the North comes down to Oregon State, like we all thought at the beginning of the year.
Stanford is the only team that can beat Oregon. That's left on their schedule. Yes. Charlie Hildebrand.
Or I was just going to say that I don't think Pac-12 is certainly most entertaining the rest of the way and has been the most entertaining up to this point. That you've got a hold and good enough to beat anybody they play on the schedule the rest of the way. And that kind of, to something David said, that to me, USC just looks 30 scholarships down, that they're good enough to beat, like a lot of teams I said already, they're good enough to beat a lot of teams they're playing, but they lack depth, and that's going to come back to bite you.
The way this is looking to me, the way I see it, Oregon's the only team in the Pac-12 that can make the playoff, and if they lose again, the Pac-12's not getting any team in. Because everybody else is going to have 2 losses.
I would completely agree with that. And in a weird way, depending on how it shakes out and how USC fares these next few weeks, that Oregon team is still incredibly dangerous. That home loss against Arizona is going to be not a bad loss, but one that people are really going to question because Arizona's going to lose multiple more games here in the next few weeks. We're running on a little bit of about pixie dust, for a lack of a better term. Get that Hail Mary to beat Cal, go up and beat Oregon, and now they come home and USC physically dominated them for 3 quarters. It came down, they had a chance to win at the gun, they missed the field goal, thank God. But Oregon's the only chance. And honestly, I think even if Oregon gets into that Pac-12 title game, facing UCLA.
What happened? What did you do, Nathan? What did you do? You wiped out 2 people with 1 punch.
Well, one of them came back.
Mr. Hildebrand is around here. I had a situation watching this Oregon-UCLA game. There we go. Any more to add to that?
I was just saying that it's going to be difficult for them, Oregon, to not lose anymore. And even that Pac-12 title game, if they play UCLA again or USC, I could see a single loss there if they get by Stanford and get through the rest of their schedule too. I honestly, I don't think they're going to do it. But, in a weird way, I'm kind of hoping because I want to see a Pac-12 team in that playoff in the first year.
Similar to the call in the Mississippi State game when they were up 3 touchdowns. Not that this mattered at all, but something I found interesting in the Oregon-UCLA game. Oregon's ahead 35-10 there late in the 3rd quarter. Oregon has it 4th and goal at the 5. They decide to go for it instead of getting up by 28 points, and UCLA did make a bit of a rally there with a few touchdowns in the 4th quarter. The difference between being up 25 and being up 28, I think, is a pretty big goddamn deal. It didn't come back to haunt them, up 25 points, but do you agree with that call by Oregon on a 4th and goal from the 5 to go for it, up 25, instead of kicking the field goal to make that a 4-score game?
I personally do agree with it. If you were watching, defensive look-wise, they were getting the same look they had got all game, and Mariota was picking it apart. They were running the ball pretty effectively. He was running all over them. They must have saw something they liked. Up 25, you're in a spot. You kick the field goal, you can make it a 4-touchdown game. or if you score the touchdown, he effectively ends the game. I had no issue with it, and they end up winning the game after all. But I like Helfrich as a coach, not necessarily as a recruiter. It started sort of tailing off. The Chip Kelly magic of getting anybody, all the athletes in the world there is already over with, and you're seeing that the effects of that already. They do obviously have several talented freshmen, but I don't think Oregon's going to be at or near the top of the country like they have been the last few years for very much longer. They're probably going to be a perennial 2-3 loss team for a long time, but they're not going to be as good as they have been.
It's weird how when you lose fantastic coaches, you're not quite as good going forward after that.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
You got a big game next week. The game is Notre Dame at Florida State. Florida State's finally dropped from number 1. If they win next week, they'll probably be voted number 1 again since Mississippi State doesn't play. Mr. Stacken, let's talk about how big of a shithead Jameis Winston is, because Mr. Schottenkirk said 7 years ago more would come out, and more came out. The big cover-up, yet again, another cover-up with the police and the Florida State administrators in cahoots to cover up the alleged rape of one Jameis Winston. Should Mr. Winston play next week, or do you expect him to play the rest of the season without any repercussions?
When is the hearing? Is it this week?
It's later this week, I believe.
Yes.
The disciplinary, the very strong disciplinary meeting.
It sounds like they have some outsiders that are involved in this decision.
Scott Hall, Kevin Nash.
Scott Hall. Oh my God.
There's an intruder. There's an intruder in my apartment. Continue with Jameis Winston. Continue.
I personally, I'm going to attack the Tallahassee Police Department here for botching this up and covering this up here. I think they should be some people that should get for that. But in terms of Winston, depending on what the disciplinary hearing, if they say he's good to go, play. But I would hope that they would sit him down and say, hey, you can't do this. If that happens, season's pretty.
Oh my God, it's Traxler. I see him.
There he is. You see him.
Kansas City hat and all.
Let's go.
Your thoughts, Jameis Winston, the big game next week?
Hi, Charlie. He's a dumbass. And I think I saw, you guys probably talked about this, 12-point favorites, Florida State. I feel like for sure Notre Dame's going to cover. And as I mentioned,
even with him playing.
Notre Dame will. I mean, with the points.
They're going to get their asses whooped.
No.
Really?
They almost lost North Carolina yesterday, for Christ's sake. North Carolina. They gave up 43 to freaking North Carolina.
Draxler knows how good North Carolina is, though. He's been on their bandwagon all year.
Yeah, now North Carolina looks like a team that's not going to make a bowl, so that's
their 6-win team.
The 6-win team. Okay. Well, I mean, it's I think Notre Dame will get their act together. I think that'll be a close game. I think Jameis Winston, for good or bad, has stepped up in the past when it counts. So I expect kind of a close win, Florida State.
The biggest key in that game is Everett Golson. He's turned the ball over 10 times the last 3 weeks. If he turns it over 3 or 4 times next week, they're going to have no chance. And I think he's going to turn it over. I think Florida State actually plays their best game of the year. I think they win probably by about 17, but that's just me.
That is just you.
I'm going to take the cop-out answer, and that if Winston gets in trouble and can't play, I'm calling the Notre Dame win. But if he does play, then Florida State wins by 50.
I mean, do we know for sure that he's not going to be suspended?
We don't know. Is that what do you expect anything?
Yeah,
Does anybody expect anything? What I enjoy, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? They already said they already don't give a shit. They already looked at it and they didn't do a good job, and they just said, well, this will blow over, and we'll just keep it hush hush. And it kind of blew over. We knew about it, and now that people know how shitty the police department and the administrators have been in actually doing their jobs, you would think the Sandusky thing, not that this is related at all with the crimes they committed, but you would think that the cover-ups, you would think they would say, okay, this is enough. This is fucking enough. if you did this, come clean, because it's going to be a shitstorm if you don't. So does anybody expect them to do anything different this week and say, hey, we're going to bring the hammer down? This is the toughest team we'll play all year because our schedule's not very good, and if we don't have our quarterback, we might lose this one.
Without divulging too many details here, I do have a 2 or 3 different quote-unquote sources inside the situation, believe it or not, in Tallahassee.
Jimbo Ford's daughter.
Yes, absolutely. She's what, 7?
Hey, getting those gummy bears coming.
But anyways, this situation with Winston, it's more of a Tallahassee Police Department issue right now. They're being, I don't want to use the word investigating, use that lightly. There's pressure from different organizations and different government entities that's not really being talked about right now. They're under some serious fire. Winston himself should be fine for this week. That said, moving forward, and I've been right on the story before too, so take this with a grain of salt if you will, but I'm just saying, pointing out that I have been right, Winston is going to find himself in trouble. It might not be during this college football season, but as soon as the process comes to light exactly what happened with what he did that night, with the way it's been handled by the university, by the police department, there are going to be some serious, serious repercussions headed Mr. Winston's way.
Well, he's done at Florida State after this year. He's going pro whether he wants to or not. And I'm sure he wants to, and I'm sure Florida State would like to get the hell rid of him. So would this affect NFL status at all?
Yeah, he's plummeting. As far as I'm concerned, everything you read, and I absolutely positively believe it, he's plummeting down everyone's draft boards. There was 3 GMs in an article I read this morning that don't have him on their draft boards, and usually they don't have boards in season very well, but they've already come out and said that no matter what their team does, no matter where they're at, they're not taking this kid, all the problems that come with him. And I fully believe that. Somebody's going to take him. Somebody's going to take him probably in the middle rounds, or someone might just say, hey, screw it. Oakland will probably take him once they get sick of Derek Carr already and bring him out there and say, let's play. But he's cost himself a lot of money. He's costing university a lot of bad press, bad publicity. Even though in the college football world, anytime you get talked about, it's probably good for recruiting. Is all those what in the South are willing to say, forget it. This is Football Factory. I'm going to come here anyways. They're getting talked about. This is bullshit or whatever you want to say. But I'm just telling you in a long-winded version here that they're pretty well screwed moving forward.
I know, real quick on what Travis kind of alluded to earlier. If you're the police and you like a college football team and you're going to cover something up, cover up like in a guy stealing a car or something like that. Don't cover up like rape or murder cases. There's no way that's not going to come back to haunt you later. Cover up someone like, getting in a bar fight, not things that like ruin lives and things like that.
Are we going to get the big story by the Sports Illustrateds and the Yahoos? Obviously not the 4-letter network, but the Yahoos and the big cover-up of the players coming forward. This is what I did, and nobody said anything about it, the Florida State guys, and that's going to be a big deal.
Definitely not the Tallahassee Democrat.
No, not the Democrat, not the Republican. Somebody from Yahoo or Sports
Especially not the independent.
Absolutely not. Is this something we expect, or something you like the Miami thing a couple of years ago?
This feels like a Yahoo story. This feels like Yahoo will have it.
Feels like a Republic story?
Daily Republic? I think so.
The Daily Republic, Weekly Republic.
They're going to send me down there.
Good. Any thoughts, wrap up, final thoughts? We talked about the Mississippis again. The Mississippis do it again.
Yeah, fastest rise to number 1. Did you know that?
Fastest rise since USA. It's USA.
USA. So pretty impressive Mississippi State. I know pretty much everybody here. I'm just going to lump everybody in and saying we all kind of doubted these Mississippi schools. And Mr. Stacken made the right call on both those teams yesterday. So congrats to him.
Tip of the hat.
Tip of the hat. He needed a big weekend. He got it. So I don't know if he'll be back in business, but.
I believe he's passed Mr. Rogenkamp.
He has. Mr. Rogenkamp did not show up this week.
He didn't pick him?
He didn't pick.
Screw him.
He had no picks.
Screw him.
So,
and Mr.
Can't be Stack Attack back of the pack anymore because you're not in the back of the pack.
Change the name.
Well, we'll have to change that up here. Yeah,
Ein Mr. Amen next. Seeing if he can reel in Mr. Almond in the last 6-7 weeks here, huh?
It's going to be difficult, but I'll do my best.
Almond's got to miss a week.
He's gonna miss a week.
He'll have something. He'll have some golf outing in the mountains. He'll have something going on.
Traxler, you attended the Gophers game?
I
He did. Shit, we forgot to talk about this.
I was wondering if you guys maybe
Break it down, DX style. Break it down.
Big kickoff return.
That was really the
Turning point.
The turning point in the game, if you will. Gophers were up by 7, and they kicked off to. I think it was after a field goal. They kicked off to.
What's his name?
Northwestern. Some guy fumbles it out of bounds. It's at the 3. Northwestern marches 6 minutes, gets a touchdown, 97 yards, ties the game. Everybody's like, "Oh shit!" Here's another collapse, and then the kickoff. The kickoff return by some guy whose name's already escaped me, but he's a
Williams.
Myrick, I think is his last name. And anyway, Gophers held on. It was nice to see, from an offensive standpoint. I know that Kriens gives Mitch Leidner quite a bit of shit, but yesterday when they had to pass, the guys were open, and it's going to make a huge difference if the Gophers are able to sort of pass when they want to pass. And I think somebody made the point that it was on Twitter that every play the Gophers run seems to have a purpose. Whether it's running to set up another play or running to set up the pass, and it's good to see play calling like that where one play leads to another. You don't always see that where you see 3 plays in a row and you're like, well, those really had nothing to do with each other. And the Gophers' defense is as good as it's been in my lifetime. Their secondary is extremely good, so it's intriguing to see. Because I'm sitting here, I can see that Kriens is already eyeing the rest of the schedule here, but they have 3 very winnable games in a row, and I'm very eager to see how Minnesota does here.
They actually have good players on defense, or what's the deal?
They do actually have good players on defense.
With their offense is still shit? The play calling's good, but do they have any players worth it?
David Cobb's a good running back.
They got the tight end, but...
Max Williams, they have 2 good tight ends, in my opinion.
But the quarterback sucks.
Well, they're 8-2 in their last 10 Big Ten.
Sucks.
Holy hell, that's 8-2. That's...
The 2 losses, granted, were to Michigan State and Wisconsin, so they haven't really beat up on any true competition. But they're 2-0 in the Big Ten for the first time since 2004. It is refreshing to see Minnesota kind of be up there and compete. I don't think it's going to last. I hope they prove me wrong, but...
It's going to last for a little while. They're going to beat Illinois and Purdue, and then they got a bye week before they play Iowa, so they'll be at least 7-1 coming off a bye week before they play the Hawkeyes.
I'm trying to figure out how they ended up with 2 bye weeks in the conference schedule.
Everyone gets 2 bye.
Except the Big 12 gets 3.
Okay.
Because they don't play a conference title game.
Yeah, I'm thinking they lose their last 3 here, maybe their last 4. So get in the goods while you can, Minnesota, because you got a bunch of red teams. You got a bunch of red teams coming up, and the red teams are good.
That's poor scheduling by the Big Ten.
Get those commits to verbal now before November hits.
We will accept our Capital One Bowl invitation. We will do this, and we will do this now. You've seen the hat, a good showing by Traxler's Club. You also see this other hat, a better showing by the Kansas City Royals. Another extra inning win on Friday night, another great win on Saturday night. 6 wins in a row. How do you explain this, Mr. Traxler? How do you put this into words? These extra inning wins. I'm a big fan of the 3-point, 7-point victories in the NFL, and how things even out.
Yep.
We're at the end of the season here. They have a handful of games left, so it's not like this is going to even out anytime. It's not like they're going to lose 4 extra inning games in a row here. But are they lucky? Are they good? A little bit of both.
I think they're a little bit of both. Somebody made the crack that they have a very Colorado Rockies vibe of when they went to the World Series a few years ago, and then got swept away by
Boston.
But I will say that offensively, I've been really impressed with how well they've been able to hit when it counts. In the 10th inning on is that Saturday or
Friday?
Friday they had the home runs from Gordon and Moustakas. These are guys that the Royals have kind of banked on being big-time players for a long time, and even though they haven't, killed other teams, it's kind of neat to see their guys come up when it counts here in the playoffs. And I'm still just kind of in shock of how easily they put away Los Angeles. It's almost like they had all that build-up in the playoff, and they got that victory, and they've just sort of rode that momentum since then. But, I mean, momentum's only as good as the next day's pitcher, and their bullpen has been very good. Their
Jesus Christ Almighty.
There's the Rockies. I knew he was going to do that. I know he has a hat.
Preston Wilson himself. Look at this. Look at this. My God.
It's a Matt Holliday World Series jersey from when they got shit rocked, like Marcus was talking about. But
Mr. Stacken, you've been on the Royals for many a year. How proud are you as a proud parent of your offspring and doing well?
Very proud papa over here watching what the Royals are doing. I think it's just some October magic, but you know, that end of the bullpen with Herrera and Davis and Holland is as good as it gets in baseball, and somehow, some way, the team that hit the home runs in all of baseball in the regular season finds ways to hit them out in October. Matt Moustakas is the first player in baseball or in playoff history to hit a home run in 3 straight games. Am I correct in that?
No, what are these, extra innings?
No, I think he's just the first. Matt Moustakas has hit
right.
run in 3 straight games. I think he's the first player ever to do that.
If that's right, that's a hell of a stat. That surprises me as well.
So, and it's not like we're talking about Eric Hosmer or, you know, I'll even throw out Billy Butler there just because he's a guy who can hit for power. I mean, Matt Moustakas is a guy who was sent to AAA Omaha earlier in the season. You know what? There's just something going on in Kansas City, and I don't know if it's the barbecue or what, but you know what? We'll take it. And that is just the sign of good things to come. And this team has so much confidence right now in what they're doing. It is going to be very difficult to beat them.
It's Mike Moustakas, right? I think unless I'm mishearing, he said Matt like 3 times.
Is it Mike? Okay,
Moose Johnson.
It doesn't matter. We know who you're talking about, but we want to be right here on the lounge. So.
Yes.
Mike. Mick.
I will say I have a lot of pride in these Royals, considering that I have the hat and I've been on them since.
Is there a family rivalry here? Doug Traxler v. Marcus Traxler.
So I was home this weekend.
Go Angels!
I was home this weekend, and I confronted my father about this because he's on Twitter. He's publicly backed the Royals and the Cardinals this year. Now, as a nostalgic person, I think he's pulling for a 1985 remix because he was a teenager at that point. But I said you can't be pulling for these teams when your avatar has a Twins logo on your hat. And he said, "Well, I got to pull for somebody." I mean, I respect that. So,
Mr. Hildebrand, what do you got?
And I also told him that we don't want the Cardinals. We didn't want the Cardinals to beat the Dodgers. Nobody on this show, I don't believe, wanted the Cardinals to beat the Dodgers.
Nobody.
They're the Yankees of the NL.
Cardinals are assholes.
So, Giants are my National League team. Royals are my American League team. Let's get it on.
Mr. Schottenkirk.
I didn't hear that. I'm kind of cutting in and out here.
Houston, hello.
Is this Baltimore-Kansas City series, is this done?
I would be very surprised Kansas City doesn't wrap it up, but I would not put it past Baltimore taking it to a 6th game or so. Probably end up back in Kansas City. It's been a pretty good series, obviously with a couple of different games, with Moustakas coming through, with Gordon with a couple of big hits and whatever. I think there's no way this thing ends in a sweep. He goes 5, and I'll take Kansas City in 6. But anything after that would be a little bit surprising.
Jared Dyson said that it's not going back to Baltimore. For what it's worth, he's probably wrong, but
I think they can take 2 or 3. Baltimore, salty club. I like them. Easily could be up 2-0 in this series, but the extra inning game somehow. This is Kansas City's run here. You know how I feel about pitching and the bullpen. This bullpen, as Stacken mentioned, tremendous. You got 3 guys, and this Finnegan character. We'll see if this Finnegan becomes something. Pitching for TCU 2 minutes ago. if I'm running a baseball team, which I'm not at the moment. I'm not at the moment.
Give it a minute.
I'm not at the moment. But if I was, I would want somebody, a Wade Davis, an average starter at best.
A Wade Davis in the bullpen is a pretty nice thing to have, it seems.
Something completely unexpected that an average starter at best would be the best setup guy in all of baseball. Holland, very good. Herrera, he can throw 100. Should there be a shift here in the thinking, since the bullpens are going 3-4 innings every single night, that we need 3 guys? Our closer is basically almost worthless because every time he comes in, he's got a 1, 2, 3 run lead. That's nice. Should there be more of a focus? Do you expect more of a focus to find 2 studs for the 7th and the 8th, like Kansas City's doing? Because we've seen trends in sports. If this is working, if you're winning championships this way, this is the way we're going to go. Is there something to this here?
Bring somebody in as a 7th inning guy. You pay him because you hate the idea of a guy being a closer or having a defined left-handed one-out guy.
Like if you got a lefty and you want to bring him in for a batter, that's fine. But look and they've changed their bullpen here. Good job, Ned Yost. You got Wade Davis. He threw 2 innings. Herrera, he threw 2 innings. Both were around 20 pitches. Holland, he threw. He struggled in that inning, but he had some runs to work with. So we're throwing Herrera 24 pitches.
Each of those guys 1 inning there.
We're at least we're throwing some pitches, and it helps that you're not playing more than 2 games in a row here, so you can pitch these guys every game. But this Kansas City, whatever they got working in the back half of this bullpen, because they just don't give up runs anymore.
It's probably the bullpen coach, whoever their bullpen coach is, that's dictating all this.
Well, they better, whoever that is.
That's been the Twins' problem. Rick Stelmazik has been sitting on his butt all these years.
Where's Matthew Lecroy? He's in Washington.
He could have been having this progressive bullpen.
This is what I want now.
I hear you.
We got Perkins now. Perkins is a guy. Fiend fell off with the rest of the bullpen, but Fiend can be okay. But you got the guy from Louisville, Birdie. If you can give me a Birdie Perkins combo, give me somebody else.
Caps.
Fuck him. Trevor May pitched horribly. And he's not a guy that I would think would be a good bullpen guy because he walks a lot of guys. However, if he sucks just for an example, as a starter, and you put him in the bullpen, one of these failed starters in the bullpen, and say, give me an inning, give me 15 pitches, throw 95. We need to find a third guy because I think the Twins have found their 2. We need a third. Yes. The National League starting off here tonight. San Francisco, Bumgarner. He's been the best pitcher in this playoffs by far. He's been unbelievable.
Game 1 was last night.
It was last night,
yes. San Francisco did win.
Yeah, that's why I said Bumgarner.
No, you said starts tonight.
No, the game.
Oh,
Game
okay.
2 starts. I think it already
I don't want us to ignore game 1.
We have to be? What do we have to be?
We have to be accurate.
Thank you. But Bumgarner, a gem last night, a gem versus Pittsburgh. How do you size these 2 up? This one seems like it's going to be a long one. Mr. Stacken, tickle my funny bone, National League.
I just hope the Giants win because I hate the Cardinals.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Cardinals, what do you think, Schottenkirk? What do you think?
Yeah, I am kind of an imposter Giant fan. I will admit that. But the last few weeks, I'm back on the bandwagon. It's fun. Got the hat, got everything going. It's about the beard, the orange October, all that good shit. I think it's gonna be a 6 or 7 game series. Bumgarner got game 1. I would be surprised if St. Louis didn't go to San Fran. Tied 1-1 here tonight. San Fran's pitching has been phenomenal in the playoffs so far. If that continues, they could wrap it up in 5 or 6. I think this thing's going 7. I think Bumgarner's going to be on the hill for Game 7. I think they win and advance the World Series for the 3rd time in 5 years.
Even years. Even years is their thing. No reason to believe that's going to change.
Are you disappointed we won't get an all-orange World Series?
Nothing saying that can't happen yet.
Does that matter to you?
Come on, O's. Let's get it. If we can get an all-orange, I mean, that'd be good. I really cannot. I really have no qualm. I have no qualms about the American League. Whoever makes it out, great. You just can't get embarrassed. You can't get swept.
No. What any thoughts on the Twins manager here? Are we gonna get this thing done before the World Series is ending? We got 8, 9 guys I've interviewed right now. Minkiewicz and Molitor are the favorites in-house. We got old Sand Alomar Jr. the seventh. Sand Jr. the seventh from the Indians. You got a couple other bench coaches. Chip Hale, Stacken's grandpa. Anybody you like to see? I'm a Minkiewicz guy. I've been a Minkiewicz guy since day 7. What do you like? You got a preference there?
If they're going to take a guy in the organization, I'd like it to be Molitor. Now that Terry Steinbach doesn't appear to be a real option, unless they've interviewed him and not told anybody. That's
check with the Florida State Department there.
Check with Florida State, and nobody else that they've evidently interviewed really tickles my fancy.
Schottenkirk's a big Sand Alomar guy.
Sand.
Why is this?
Sand, yeah. Honestly,
good job because we're not gonna be able to take him seriously.
Oh, I know. Yeah, every time he does anything, every time they pan to him in the dugout, every time he walks out the starting lineup, I'm just gonna be busting out laughing. But
pound sand, Alomar, pound sand.
I think as far as the guys they've interviewed from outside the organization so far, he's the guy that I would definitely want. There's still one guy that I was on a few weeks ago when the news broke about Gardy that I would want them to interview and potentially and hire if they did interview, and that would be Dave Martinez from Tampa Bay, their bench coach. I'm a massive believer in Mr. Martinez as a manager moving forward. If it's here or if it's someplace else, I believe he'll be very successful. I just have a feeling that he's going to be with somebody soon. If it's somebody within the organization, I'm with Traxler. I think it should be Mulder. That said, I do not want it to be one of those guys they've talked about from within. I want it to be somebody different, even though I know I'm fighting a very uphill battle.
So you're an uphill runner, not a downhill runner?
Absolutely. Always running uphill. Got to keep those legs moving.
The Pat Royce article, I didn't read it. I will read it. He says, what does he want here in a new Twins manager?
He wants somebody who's going to assert some control, make some demands, if you will, about this team and how to run it. I think he said, for example, Mike Pelfrey. If he was the new manager, he'd tell Mike Pelfrey, I don't know what happened last year, but don't do it again.
Is he still under contract?
I don't know.
No, he can't. He can't.
He also remarks that Joe Mauer, the 4 home runs, 50 RBIs, that shit ain't gonna cut it. Come to spring training in shape. And I think, Mauer, I think he's prepared every year. I don't think that's the issue, but it's a matter of, we're paying you this money. I think it's time to start delivering a little bit more offensively. And Schottenkirk, what do you have to say?
It's disappointing.
I'm holding my head because a lot of Mauer's issues this year that people started talking about later in the year, a lot of people were murmuring about, is the concussion. I don't think he fully recovered. Hasn't. He was kind of off-kilter, got off a bad start. I think you're going to see a similar bounce back. Morneau had a great year out in Colorado. He's so-called supposedly fully healthy. I think Mauer's just going to be fine for the next 2 or 3 years. I think he'll be back to that 300 average, 310 average, a little bit more power. I think that's the biggest issue. As far as the column as a whole, Royce, he's not exactly a favorite of mine, but I got the premise of where he was coming from. I liked a lot of what he said. I think the new guy that comes in is going to have to change the culture a little bit because they've gotten used to these last 4 years to losing it and it being okay and Gardy really not getting on anybody's ass. Yeah. Although the media's is becoming increasingly frustrated the last few years, and that was obvious. I think he should have directed some of that, that anger and some of that built-up tension on his own team to get the light of fire underneath their asses, which he didn't, cost him the job. It's interesting to me as far as this move is going to really tell me as a pretty big fan a lot. If they're going to continue to be okay, believing in their system, believing in their farm system, believing in their guys that they bring in, or if they're going to be a signal here that if they hire somebody from outside, a Sandy Alomar, a Dave Martinez, or anybody else from wherever they find somebody from, if they go outside the organization, that's pretty much, for me, admitting that the organization is kind of broken in a sense and that they need to find a different voice, a new way to look at things and completely, change what they're doing. Even with a very good minor league system right now, there's still, there's hope anyways, but this hire is as important of a hire as I can possibly think of for a major league team.
I will say that, with the poll ads, they have shown that they believe in the guys that they have. The last 20, 25 years, they like their guys. That's why Bill Smith got promoted. That's why they brought Terry Ryan back. You can look at the coaches, the assistant coaches that they've brought back. That's what leads me to it being a former Twin or somebody who's in the organization.
There's only two guys.
And there's only two guys that we know of that have interviewed for the position.
And you would not expect Molitor to stay on. If
it's just kind of out of left field, but if it's going to be a former Twin or a guy within the organization or whatever, I want them to bring back Christian Guzman because I'm kidding completely 100%. But
I'm like, I was wondering, does he coach? I'm like, yeah.
Bryce Guzman.
That minority, the Spanish speaking, the whole bit, bring them in, see what happens, let's go. But it's just hiring Malter, fine. Hiring McCavish to me makes no sense. Not experienced enough, even though he's been with the Class A, the minor league team. He's been with Buxton. He's been with Sano these last couple of years. The connection there would make a little bit of sense, but I don't want to see that, and I'm really just frustrated as a whole right now. They're interviewing guys that we all knew they were going to interview. It's like, show me something. Go out and interview a big name that's been sitting on the market for a year or two. Go out and at least interview Ozzie Guillen. He's 50 years old, a damn good manager. Shake something up. Give him a chance. Go talk to him. Even if you don't hire him, don't give him the job, fine. But show me you're trying. You're looking at all the different, the different possibilities, and they haven't done that yet, frankly. Ozzie Guillen, Dave Martinez. There's 2 or 3 other guys that I can think of that just at least go talk to him, and maybe you'll be blown away, and maybe you'll want to hire him. But they don't even want to. They want to interview their guys and probably hire one of those guys because that's what they've always done.
Ozzie Guillen, from what I understand, really wants a job.
He does.
I think that's fine. I think they should go out and talk to him at least. I would agree that they need to probably widen the net a little bit and see who they can come up with.
I got a name.
Who's that?
Bill Cowher.
Bill Cowher. Has been sitting on a pile of cash for a while.
All of these goddamn NFL coaches that aren't coming back, can we invite any of them in some baseball?
I was thinking Lou Piniella.
Here we go.
What's Lou Piniella doing?
Piniella, Pinella's manager, have Cowher as the bench coach, and have Gruden as your pitching coach or something. Let's go.
Fred Hoiberg, get him before the NBA does. Let's get him done.
Yeah.
Christ almighty. Speaking of Fred Hoiberg, he was a principal partner in the new TV deal. I heard he was a big influence on it.
Really?
No, not at all. 9 years, $2.6 billion with the double Bs for a TV deal, for ESPN, for TNT, for a sport that has seen steady ratings for the last 5 years.
Most notably, not NBC or Fox.
I wish they would have gotten into it, but the days of NBC and NBA long gone. Brings a tear to both of my eyes. This is a lot more than I thought. Mr. Stacken, your thoughts on this TV contract? It's a little bigger than the hockey. We will get to a hockey preview.
Just a tad bigger.
The NBA, they got a lot of money. Is this worth it? Is this a good deal?
Is it for the NBA? I mean, right now the NBA is doing really good with the ratings, but I mean, how long until, LeBron? I mean, remember when Michael Jordan retired? Then the NBA kind of fell off the map a little bit with the ratings and everything. LeBron James came back. We'll see how this does. It gives ESPN an increased amount of games. I just can't stand ESPN's NBA coverage to begin with. They get more platforms, I guess, to broadcast games on. It's a good move by the NBA to get as much money as they can from these teams. I love TNT's coverage. They've been covering the NBA since like 1989 or something like that.
Good work. 88. They do good work.
They've been at this for a while. Keep it with them. I like the NBA on NBC. That was very cool. Wish they had gotten in on it, but they're too busy with NASCAR and the Premier League to broadcast NBA games, I guess, and in the NHL. But overall, I think a good deal for the NBA getting as much money as they did.
Mr. Schottenkirk, how does this affect the business side? You got the lockout, the strike, whatever you want to call it, up a couple of years. The players.
There's going to be another lockout.
The players, they want in on this. What's it going to take for them to get the no max contracts, get paid $30, $40 million a year? What the hell is the repercussions of a quarter of $10 billion here?
I would hope that everybody could come to their senses and realize that the pie is a hell of a lot bigger than it's ever been before. The players will get some things that they want, and they've probably deserved for a while that they haven't got. The owners will give up a little bit, understanding that they just got probably the best TV deal in professional sports history as far as money-wise. And considering the sport is not exactly booming right now, it's kind of at a little bit of plateau, and it's probably been leveled off the last 2 or 3 years. The ratings have been good; they're not all-time highs by any means, but I think long-term business-wise, a couple of things here. LeBron James makes a hell of a lot more sense why he signed a 2-year deal in Cleveland now, because he knew this was coming. He can make a shit ton of money. His last couple years of his career, he's finally going to get paid what he's been deserved to be paid the last few years, which is $35 million a year, and he's going to get that money. A guy like Kevin Durant that's me in free agency in 2016, expect the big markets to come hand over fist for him, $30, $32, $34 million a year for 3 or 4 years. There's a hell of a lot more money. NBA owners have been rich. They just got a hell of a lot richer. I think the salary cap's going to jump significantly. I think it's going to probably increase by 35-40%, which is massive. I still think there's going to be a cap. I think there's going to be a little bit more leeway as far as if you go over with the luxury tax system. I think if you go over that, you're going to still be penalized. It's not going to be as harsh as it is now. The repeater penalty probably be done away with. As far as just the deal in general, I've been kind of beating the drum that this deal was coming and it was going to be massive. And even when I saw that, you guys shared that link in our Facebook chat, I didn't believe it. I thought that has to be that can't be a 2 billion dollar deal. It's stupefying to me. It just tells you that these owners, good business people, they promoted the product. They made it seem like if ESPN didn't pony up the money that somebody else was going to, and they would lose it to get altogether. They played their cards well. They got their money. It's long term. It's a day that's just going to go down in NBA history as something that reshaped the league.
I think I'm not as optimistic as David is that they're going to avoid a work stoppage in 2016, 2017.
2 seasons?
2017.
2017. I'm not as optimistic because what's the current split is what, 54% to the owners?
53.
53. That's right. And it seems like it should be an obvious 50-50 split. That's what it was before. Now that the pie is bigger, like David said, it should come out somewhere at that. Now, will they have to stop the action to get to that point? I think they will. And
does that mean they have to go back to Charlotte? Don't say. Please.
You have to go work the lockout season. Yeah.
Fuck you.
There was one other thing that and David mentioned that the salary cap is going to go up quite a bit. And the one thing I've read is that it's going to let some of these teams, like David's Lakers, or God forbid, even the Nets, teams that are really
the Nets don't care; they spend anywhere they say.
Right. Even some of these teams that are really, really anchored down by some big contracts. Knicks. By the time this new money kicks in, you may have room for one more big time deal. So we may be looking at big fours as opposed to big threes, and I think that would seriously change the game.
How does this affect the middle guys? Somebody that may get $8 million, are they now worth $13 million?
Maybe not that much more, but a guy. Let's think of a guy in the middle of the road.
How about this? How about a guy more on the? I think he's a top 10 player, Joakim Noah. He's going to get here recently. Is this going to be a guy that you're seeing? I don't think you want to go $20 million, but I would say 15's in the books, and he's a defensive guy, a rebounding guy, a 10 points per game guy. Does this affect him a lot?
Yeah, the superstars are the ones obviously you see the biggest impact. The quote-unquote stars, which I consider Noah to be, from a true basketball perspective, he's very valuable. Still very underrated in my opinion for what he does for that team. a guy like that is definitely going to see a big increase in their future contracts, and even moving down into the guys that are your bench guys that are 20, 22-minute a night guys versus 3-4 million. If you got a very good bench guy, a 6-man or whatever, you're going to see his salary get bumped up by quite a bit per year too. I think overall it's just the trickle-down effect from the like I said, the pie's bigger. The owners are going to realize that, hey, we got to spend a little bit more. This deal, whatever this is, they're going to be making more money than they ever have before. I'll be more willing to spend. I think it does affect everyone besides the the 11th to 12th guy on the roster.
Kevin Durant done for the first 6 to 8 weeks, missed 20 games or so. Westbrook can jack up all the shots he wants. Any effect here? This going to affect anything, or is this going to miss a few games? Thunder roll as usual. Any effects that you can see? Mr. Traxler.
I mean, it's not going to help them. I mean, I'm trying to think. Was there a period last year where Durant was out?
No, he's missed like 5-6 games. Westbrook
was out.
Yeah. Well,
Durant hasn't missed.
Okay, so the times I remember of Westbrook jacking up all these shots.
Those were in the playoffs.
Durant was out there.
Those were in the playoffs.
So it'll be pretty interesting to see Westbrook used in this manner in the regular season. David's gonna kill me for this, but the season really doesn't start till Christmas, or even after that point, where you're really getting into it. And I know that all these wins count the same.
Real quick, I'll let you continue because your point is rather valid. But in saying that, say for instance the difference between the 1 and 2 seed or the 8 and 9 seeds, one game.
No. I agree.
Right. I know what you're saying, but every game does matter.
8-9 playoff to get in the playoffs.
No, there shouldn't be.
Minnesota, Phoenix, play it off.
They're talking about it or not. No, seriously, 100% serious. They're talking about doing that.
They're talking about it. They're stupid shits. That's what they're talking. I don't want to see a 37-win fucking Atlanta team against a 40-win Indiana team playing the best of 2. I don't want it. Mr. Stacken, how does this? We'll get to the NHL preview here momentarily. We're moments away from it. How does this?
Let's get to it.
And we'll have our NBA preview here in a few weeks. Does this affect where you would put Oklahoma City in your standings at all?
No, because I think that the Clippers are the best team out in the West.
Whoa!
And I think they compete with San Antonio. So I guess San Antonio, LA Clippers 1-2. I could see Golden State kind of making a run as well, though. I consider Oklahoma City to probably be the 3rd or the 4th best team in the West.
Alrighty. I'm waiting for these Clippers to do something. I'm waiting for Chris Paul to actually win a fucking playoff series worth of video.
League or championship banners in the Staples Center.
I'm waiting. Show me something, Clippers. The NHL preview, the hockey season has started. They have played games I have not watched, nor will I. Mr. Stacken. Well, I don't give a shit at all. Okay. Mr. Stacken and Mr. Traxler talked at length here on Tuesday night on the program on the radio waves about what happened. What did I say?
Yeah, radio.
Yeah. About what's going to happen, what they think. I heard parts of it, and what I heard is a lot of sucking the cock of the Wild. I heard Stanley Cup. Jesus H. If they can win another series, I would be impressed, not knowing anything about it. But this Minnesota Wild team, you have high expectations.
I don't. Here's the deal.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised at how high the expectations are.
Why? Did they add anybody?
Thomas Vanek.
Vanek, very good addition.
I've heard of him.
Yeah.
He's nice.
Yep.
I don't think he's a. Let's get to the Eastern Western Conference Finals here.
What I think does help is that there is depth. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of guys they can go to.
So you're saying they're deep? You
look at their second line. I mean, is
it better than Mississippi State's?
Be tight.
Okay.
I still feel. I mean, and it's interesting that we're talking about this now because they are 2-0. They've been 8-0. 8 goals for, no goals against.
The ominous differential in their favor.
Yes. So this has been a very good start. I like that they're sort of trusting Darcy Kemper to be the true number one.
NHL's 100 more sports.
I don't know if I don't know how things are going to unfold. I think we're going to see some of all the goaltenders for the Wild. Both Stacken and I have said that we think they're going to be in the Western Conference Finals and lose.
How does that happen? The Western Finals.
I think this is a team that's good enough to finish second in their division because you play in your divisions in the first 2 rounds. I mean, I think that if you get a crack at Chicago, I mean, depending on who you talk to, I mean, I didn't think that they were that close to beating them last year. Some people
They lost in 5?
6.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Some people thought that that was actually a series that the Wild were in, had a chance to advance out of there. I'd pick the Ducks to beat.
They lost to the Blackhawks 2 years ago. 4-1, I think. That was, so they progressed this year by beating Colorado in the first round and made it a competitive series with Chicago this year. Listen, the 48 shots, a franchise record opening night Thursday against Colorado really stunned me. I don't think that they're going to keep putting up this offensive output every night. They're going to have some. It sure makes me excited to see the offense working as well as they have, getting to those loose pucks.
Whoa.
And, with Zach Parise, they have a very balanced team. Goaltending is the biggest issue with this team. Can Kemper keep it up? I certainly hope so, but I say Chicago 1, Minnesota 2 in the Central. I don't buy St. Louis. Dallas is an up-and-coming team. I give them probably the 3rd spot in the Central. St. Louis and Colorado kind of fighting for that 4-5. But the Wild are loaded everywhere, and the only questions they have are at goalie, though Kemper so far has been pretty good with 2 shutouts.
Maybe Colorado's just bad.
I think they peaked last year. I think everyone was like, "Whoa, Colorado, this is a really good team."
I'm just saying that because they played that team twice.
Yeah,
maybe it was just.
I think Colorado is going to take a step back. I'm really impressed with the Wild. What they've done, the Western Conference is just so difficult to navigate through versus the East, which I think you'll see probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 different teams in there this year over last year. And how the NHL does it too, but with the top 3 teams in each division versus automatically get in, and then the final 2 are wild card spots versus just the top 8 teams in the conference as a whole. I think that does put these games at a premium, but I've been extremely impressed and excited with what I've seen from the Wild. Hopefully they can do it, but look at that. Schottenkirk couldn't take any more hockey talk. He gone. I don't expect the Wild to win the Stanley Cup, but I think they're building a team that is going to compete for the Cup this year and for the next couple of years.
It seems to me like goalie would be the one position where you don't want that to be your weakness or a question mark. Like pitching in baseball, I would like to have some pitching if I want to be a good team. What is the situation?
Here's the thing about the Wild. They have Josh Harding. When he's on. He's very good, but he has multiple sclerosis. That can take you out of the lineup a fair amount.
Probably.
Nicholas Backstrom getting kind of old. Probably not. His best years are behind him. They did not bring out certified crazy person Ilya Bryzgalov. He's not back this year. You have Darcy Kemper, who's kind of they just cut him. They gave him a tryout in the preseason, but decided not to bring him on the team. Then you have Darcy Kemper, who is, I guess, your more quiet, uninteresting goalkeeper. And when these 2 games, he's been rock solid. We haven't seen a ton of that. And so I think you have 3 good goaltenders. You don't have one guy that is your true number 1.
I agree with that. Overall, as a whole, Chicago, LA in the West are probably the 2 best teams. In the East, Pittsburgh, I expect Washington to have a bounce-back year. Boston, I would anticipate, will be good as well. Columbus seems to be building up to a good team, but overall, Pittsburgh's got the most talent in that in the Eastern Conference. But Tampa Bay, watch out for them. Ben Bishop in goal. They have Steven Stamkos, a lot of good talent there. I could see them making a run at representing the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup Final.
So, picks here. Well, East, West, who do we like? If you want to give Western, Eastern Finals, Mr. Stacken, what do we like?
In the Pittsburgh against Tampa Bay in the Eastern Conference Finals, Pittsburgh making it to the Stanley Cup Final, I have Minnesota, and I think I picked the Kings in the West. I will take the Kings to win, and Kings Penguins, I will take the Penguins to win the Stanley Cup this year.
Mr. Schottenkirk.
For me, I think I shared this with Trax a few days ago. I think Stacking spot on with Tampa Bay as being a potential under-the-radar team that's going to go very far, that nobody has really had the balls enough to call it. I'm calling that they win the East. They beat Pittsburgh in the Eastern Finals. They made the Stanley Cup. In the West, I think I had Chicago over Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. Give me that Chicago over Los Angeles in the West, and then the Stanley Cup, give me Chicago over Tampa Bay, probably in 4 or 5 games.
I was just going to say, I don't feel very good about leaving Chicago out there. I am going with a bit of a homer pick with the Wild to make it.
I personally, this is just me, and as somebody that I follow college hockey incredibly closely, I don't follow NHL that closely. As far as everything that I've known and seen the last few years with the additions, with the talent that they have, I would be very, very surprised if Chicago didn't lift the cup this year.
Very good. Very good take. I think let me hedge my bets a little bit here.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised, yeah. Now, I think the Wild will have a very good year.
What, there was a tie today?
Yes, there was a tie.
Holy shit! I predicted. What was it, Ravens? Was it Ravens, Steelers, or Bengals? If I predicted a fucking tie and got this right, continue.
It was Bengals-Panthers.
Wow.
Bengals-Panthers today was the tie.
Incredible.
We were talking all about it. Where were you today?
I give zero shits about the professional ranks now.
Kriens, you're gonna laugh till you cry now when you read the Facebook message, because Drew, Marcus, and I all went shit crazy when it happened. It was really funny. It was very funny.
What did I have? I had Cincinnati.
Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Yep.
Suck my cock, man. Continue.
I'm not gonna do that.
I don't want you to.
I will hedge my bets here. I will have Chicago over Anaheim. I think the Wild have a very good year, but for the sake of the lounge picks, I'll have Chicago over Anaheim. And in the Stackin' Radio Challenge, I did have the Ducks over the Wild. I don't even know who I had in the East. I'll take Boston over Toronto here. I think Toronto's going to have a very good season. And let's say they sneak in and make a run in the playoffs. So, and then I'll take Anaheim over Boston.
Why do people like Tampa Bay? They had the 3rd seed last year?
Yeah, they did get swept by Montreal, but Ben Bishop was on the U.S. Olympic hockey team last year. Didn't get to see a lot of action. Steven Stamkos, very good. Who's the guy that they signed or re-signed from New York? Callahan?
Yeah.
Yep, so he's good there. Just Tampa's got a lot of good talent there, and people don't know because very few people in Florida realize there's actual hockey.
The reason why people like Tampa is because quite honestly, and just the numbers-wise and the talent-wise, they're probably the best offensive team in the entire league. It's just a matter of Bishop can take that next step, and if their defense score can hold up in the playoffs, which they didn't do last year. But there's a lot of people believing that the offensive talent is just so immense this year that they would be very surprising if they weren't very good.
NHL Hockey Preview. We will revisit this months from now.
Dig it out.
And we will forget what we just said. I watched the Vikings. It was not good. Mike Goldberg, voice of the UFC, with Brandon Anabadejo. This here, I saw this.
Isn't it Adam Goldberg, or was I mistaken?
This was Mike Goldberg, Moustakis' uncle, Mike Goldberg. I saw this. I was excited for this. This was disappointing. This was shit. He thought Greg Jennings was Golden Tate. He called Sharif Floyd Sheriff Floyd. He thought he called coordinator. Amongst many other things,
he couldn't get the name of the stadium right.
He
thought they were in St. Paul, I think, at one point.
And he's a Minnesota guy, so this is the softball for you, Mr. Goldberg, and this was a poor showing. Did I hear right? He's going to do the Buffalo Vikings game next week? So we'll give you another crack at this, but goddamn, you got to do better than this because this was not good.
I didn't really get to watch a ton of the game, and I watched.
You didn't miss much. You didn't miss a goddamn thing.
Listened to even less of it.
You only missed about 8 sacks.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. We've talked about this on the show before. Fox's rosters of play-by-play and color analysts is just so much less than CBS. Like CBS's worst guy would be like number 3.
Like Greg Gumbel, I like Greg Gumbel.
Yeah.
Some people don't, but he's their number 3 guy. I feel that's a solid 3 guy.
I feel like Deerdorf was carrying down.
I liked him. He was past his prime, but
he was. Yeah.
But Mr. Stacken, do you have anything here on this broadcasting crew? Did you see this abortion?
It was awful. It was terrible. It was about as bad as Matt Khalil against
Ouch.
Levy. I mean, it was bad.
Phil Lodeholt was the one getting his ass kicked for most of the game.
Everybody fucked on that line.
It was just a borderline disaster. Yeah, getting names wrong all the time, saying, "Oh, that looks like it's a first down," or saying, "Oh, it looks like he got 1 yard and he got 4." I'm like, okay.
What was the one late in the game where he thought it was a fumble, or he thought the guy had thrown it and he still had it in his hands?
Yeah, there was a pump fake.
And he's
bad.
Throws out of bounds. Oh no, he still got it.
And he thought Rhett Ellison was Chase Ford.
Yeah.
They're both white. They are both 86, 85. But boy, these are layups. You got to get the names right. That should be the easiest goddamn thing. And you got to get the yardages right. If you see it and it's a loss of 1, don't say it's a gain of 3. Or if you say, boy, didn't get much on that, well, you got a gain of 4. 4 is not bad, and it's not like this is the first football game he's ever fucking done. So no, I think he used to do Cardinals game. I believe I read once on a telephone post that he did some Arizona Cardinal games back in the day.
Twitter's pretty negative.
I put in Mike Goldberg's name to the Google machine, and it says Twitter reacts quite negatively to UFC announcer Mike Goldberg NFL on Fox debut. So, our
goodness sake, put Randy Moss in the booth if you're gonna throw this.
Randy Moss.
He's a pretty good analyst.
I'm buying fucking stock.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Stock. He also called game for Arizona Cardinals flagship.
Wow.
So, point for me.
Well, they did better because they have Dave Pasch now.
Pasch is solid.
Want to be.
Randy Moss is very good. Mike Goldberg with this creepy picture, he's got to get that fixed.
Wiki.
Apparently, there's no more UFC to call. There's more than 2 days without a UFC, so they have to put him on the Fox podcast. So, and Anna Badejo.
Tell you what, we'll put Dusty V up there with
in there, buddy.
with Ian Badejo next week for it.
Thank you. I have but there were points where there was a lot of dead air, and Mike Goldberg was setting them up like, Brandon, how about that? Or Brandon, talk is basically what he said.
It doesn't help when you're having a tough time. He probably knew he was having a tough time.
Oh yeah.
And the guy next to you is not helping at all.
Dude, I mean, your spotter.
Get a new spotter.
Some help here.
Gonna have to find a new spotter between here and Buffalo.
And there was a time they showed the replay, and this is usually when the analyst analyzes what happened when they show the play again. They showed a replay. There was nothing. There was dead air there for 5 seconds. Nobody said anything. They just replayed the play. Nothing happened, and we went on our ways. So we'll get it next week at Buffalo. Detroit, you impressed me with your defense.
That was good.
If they can keep that defense up, they can win that division, and they can do something because that offensive shit they've been running with 30 points, it hasn't been working. Now that their defense is vastly improved, What is this? Is this a Jim Schwartz signed ball? What is this? Is this a Wayne Fonts signed ball? What is this?
It's somebody they could have used today. It's a Randall McDaniel signed football. They could have really used him out there today. My thoughts real quick.
Todd Steussie piss cup.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, his drug test.
the hell's a piss cup?
You piss in it.
What are you talking about?
Piss in it for drug test.
Like a semen sample?
Yeah.
He signed that.
Yeah.
You to him to sign? Or you
Yeah.
found it somewhere?
No, I gave it to him to sign. I said,
Why did you have him
"Here,
sign
cup."
that?
I didn't have him sign that. Come on. Try to keep up.
What? Stussy.
No, what I should have had Steussie sign was a yellow flag because of all the false starts.
All
wow.
start number what?
73.
73. Offense. Repeat.
And I remember I was what, 9 years old, and I was yelling at Steussie. I don't know if I was saying "God damn it," but I might as well have been. I was saying the 9-year-old equivalent of "God damn it."
Damn it. Can we stop with the Norv Turner's the great coach? Because this shit's terrible. Patterson, fucking Christ.
Looks awfully.
He's hurt.
Do I have? Yes.
Patterson's hurt. That's part of the reason why he's looked off the last few weeks. You're not buying that, I see.
What is he
His
hurt?
hip.
Fuck his hip. They run the ball. They ran it once. Lined him up in the backfield. It looked like he had some. I believe he tripped over his own feet. He had 2 yards. Looked like he could have gained 5. Well, if he's hurt, then sit his ass because he's not doing anything. If he's hurt, bench.
It's been bad these last few weeks. To be fair, though, Adrian Peterson obviously not there. Kyle Rudolph not there. Cordell Patterson not at 100%. You're relying
Brandon
on
Fusco.
Fusco, yes. Fusco's actually a bigger loss than people think it is.
Yep.
All these have added up. A rookie quarterback that looked rather, subpar today. I kind of mentioned that last week that people were getting way ahead of themselves with this Teddy hype.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I thought he was going to have
What the hell are you talking about? I thought that Atlanta game was going to be the worst game of his career.
I distinctly remember somebody
I
on
remember as well.
this lounge saying that the Vikings are a decent shot at the playoffs. Let's see if you feel that way now.
I do.
Okay. Schedule-wise, let's play this forward for a second.
Yes.
How many wins do you think it's going to take for them to get in? 9?
12.
12.
So 9. They go 9 and 7. I said they were going to win their next 4. I still think they're going to win these next 3. If they lose at Buffalo, I think they're going to win their next 2. I think these next 3 games are very winnable.
Okay.
They are.
But they absolutely are, but I don't think they're going to. They showed me nothing today. They showed me nothing.
If they're worth the shit, they're going to win these games. If they're not worth the shit, they're going to lose one of these.
They're not worth the shit.
Their defense is very improved.
I mean, this offense.
They don't have an offensive line.
The offensive line was shit. But that Detroit.
I'll give some credit to Detroit.
The offensive line looked pretty good versus Atlanta. Not as good versus Detroit.
I think we all, well, at least I was had my expectations for Atlanta have been quickly shattered by how terrible they've been on defense.
Well, I mean, yeah, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, Washington. I like their chances. The Vikings, when they've been good this year, they've been very, very good. When they've been bad, they've been very, very bad. But you got the Jets. You got, you like to think you could beat Chicago once. You got Detroit again. We'll see what happens. They seem to be a pretty good team, but that's a December game, and Detroit in December is poor. Carolina, we'll see. That's a good defensive team. But you got 2, 3, 4, 5. I see, 7. Hopefully 7. Not a playoff team, but 7 would be good.
I think they're a 6 or 7 win team. I don't think anything over 7 would be very surprising to me. Right now, if I had to pick a record, I'd say 6 and 10. And I firmly believe that a 6 and 10, even with all the things that have been going on, would still be a pretty big improvement off of last year. The defense is a hell of a lot better. Losing the offensive weapons that you have, breaking in a rookie quarterback. I think 6 and 10, even though a lot of people won't see it that way, would be a light at the end of the tunnel. It's been the last year and a half here.
Does ESPN have their little thing where you can punch out all the scenarios for rest of the season and find out who makes the playoffs?
I just care who the best team in 2017 is going to be.
Because let's say everybody ties except the Vikings. They win these games. 6-10 might get you in.
Any takers? I said takers. Any non-takers?
I'm not responding to that stupidity.
Good.
You don't think we're going to have 100 ties before the end of the season?
I mean, it's totally possible.
How the heck is it possible? I'm not even 100 games left. Come on. Anyways, it's good to see. One positive from the offense. It's good to see 3 weeks too late that Jerick McKinnon's your guy, not Matt Asiata. Asiata should get approximately 1.7 carries per game, and McKinnon should probably get about 20 touches, 15 to 20 rushes, 4 or 5 in the passing game. So good job, geniuses, that we found out that Jerick McKinnon, quarterback, Georgia Southern, is better than Hawaiian Matt Asiata. I know it took you. I give 0 shits about Matt Asiata. He'll be unemployed as soon as this fucking show's done. So Jerick McKinnon, good job. He's exciting. He's exciting. We'll end the show on a positive. Adrian Peterson smoked some pot. It's he's a stupid shit.
You mean positive by positive test?
He's a positive. He's one of the dumbest motherfucks of all time. My question is, I've been waiting for years, as you know, the HGH and the drugs. I'm waiting for this. This is what I'm waiting for. When is it coming? Is this another Yahoo? Is it going to be a double whammy? 1 whammy, 2 whammy. I'm waiting for it. HGH, get it done. He ain't doing it. He's so far in the bag.
Break a story for one.
He ain't breaking shit if it's not coffee related. So, do you expect an HGH Peterson story to come out here in the next year or two? Because I'm waiting for it, anxiously.
I've kind of been on the same bandwagon as far as the HGH in general. I don't think they necessarily involve Adrian Peterson himself. I think there is a distinct possibility that testing will be in place in a very stringent testing, which is going to be interesting because there's been several former players that have said that 60 to 70% of the league is using some sort of performance-enhancing drug right now. That tells you everything you ever want to know. They don't want to admit it. It's kind of like baseball didn't want to admit it. It's kind of that dirty little secret kept under the rug that a lot of people know, but they just don't want to talk about it because if they're wrong, they look like idiots. But we all kind of know that we're right. It's just a matter of time before it gets exposed.
I'd like to see the NFL wiped of HGH. You think you hate the Big Ten now? Big Ten football is coming to the NFL.
Is this football steroid, the domestic abuse?
Oh, yeah.
I'm waiting for the fall, Traxler. Am I in the midst of it right here?
I mean, if 60 or 70% of the league's on HGH and they start catching all these guys, the league's going to look pretty shitty pretty quick. I mean, they'll have players. Fans are idiots. They'll stick with their team.
I'm down. I didn't watch anything last week. You
watched for Mike Goldberg this week.
I watched that shit. I watched a little bit of Cincinnati, New England. I watched the Vikings here. I didn't watch anything since. I watch the baseball now. They've broken me.
I watched the end of Cincinnati, Carolina today, and I watched the second half of the Vikings, and that's about it. And
college has got me. So.
Truth be told here, Kriens, I think a part of the reason why I didn't watch today is because I was giving you a ass whooping of a lifetime in fantasy football. So not to rub it anymore, but 6-0, kicking your ass feels good.
I will head to the Mayo Clinic after this.
Gotta get a diagnosis.
Emotionally scarred for a while, but I apologize for that. But I will.
He apologizes for beating me.
Hey, you can't use the league logo as your team logo. That's against copyright.
The fuck? Is this right?
I don't know.
And league logo? Did you upload a league logo?
No.
Horseshit. You and Steussie can go. What did I do? 75. That's a poor effort out of me. That's a poor fucking effort.
No, nobody's gonna beat him though.
But you scored
6 points.
When I'm playing somebody, Harvin did you
Joe
well.
Flacco, 32 points. There's nothing you can do about that.
You played as well as you possibly could have. I look at that.
Of course, he didn't have anything. I had 1 point from friggin' Chris Ivory. I had Flacco go off. I had luck with a decent performance, and I had Frey go off, and that was my points.
That's the Percy effect right there.
Percy Harvin. If you score 136, that's when I want to have a shitty week. I don't want to score 130 and say fuck.
Yeah, so get beat.
So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a win for me.
It's not, though. Not even close.
Anybody in the league think can take Mr. Schottenkirk down here?
I only beat you by, or you only beat me by like 5 points the very first week, and I don't know if anybody else has come any closer. I don't know.
Lost by 11, but yeah, that's not close.
5, so
I lost by 45. So.
I'll have a couple losses, but I like my team going forward, and being 6-0 at this point, I'm pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot with 8 teams or whatever, unless all my guys
get really concerned about making the playoffs.
Get shot at a dark alley, then I'm screwed that way. But most points scored so far, it's not that big a deal. 6 weeks, and all these regular season wins don't mean anything unless your team wins in the playoffs, and we all know that. So we'll see what happens.
Mr. Stacken put up 137, besting Schottenkirk's 136 this week.
Oh boy!
You took down Ari. This puts you.
No, I have not taken him down yet. He's got Brandon Quick, Larry Donald, and Andre Williams. So until it's over, I am not going to. I lost last week because Kirk Cousins threw a touchdown, and Marshawn Lynch couldn't find the damn end zone at the end there. So
Lynch scored a touchdown.
Yeah, but not on that one late, like where he caught it, ran 30 yards. I needed him to get in, and he just.
I do want to talk about last week's Monday night game, if I can, for a minute. Besting Shane Koob by 1 yard.
Again, back-to-back weeks for you.
Because Alfred Morris he had 29 yards, he needed 30, and I won the tiebreaker on bench points. And upset saved.
We're happy for you. We're happy for you.
Thanks.
2 weeks for you, living dangerously. This week
doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Not so much.
Cabanas are sinking badly.
That'll drop you to 3-3.
3-3. Yes.
Dan Beck, still with Nick Foles, he could put up a 150-point week here.
Dan Beck is a machine. He had got 20 points out of the Lions' defense. That wasn't cool.
I talked to him here on Monday night. Told him we considered him the Ole Miss of the bunch.
This came out of nowhere.
Surprise out of nowhere. Can you keep it up? We will see. With David being undefeated here, do you want to lose before the playoffs? Are you a believer that you have to lose? Will you rest your starters? Will you put in Mike Glennon?
Yes, I do want to lose, and I know I'm going to probably multiple times before the playoffs. I have had a couple close calls, a few injuries on my roster right now, but if I'm undefeated, that will probably make me feel even less sure going into the playoffs because just the way things are stack up, I'm bound to have a bad week, and hopefully it doesn't come the first or second weekend. In the playoffs, it's fun to agonize about and look over your roster 500 times throughout the week, but I really don't put a whole bunch of stock into it. It's just supposed to be fun or whatever. It is nice.
The 1986 Ariel Boytons have the champagne on ice waiting for the first loss of Schottenkirk's team.
It's probably true. He'll make 7 moves the day that I lose the first.
He'll pick up Storm Johnson 7 times. He'll drop Austin Davis another half dozen.
Yeah.
Mr. Stacken.
Yeah.
Analyze Mr. Boynton's ad drop pattern here.
I think it's just like throwing a blind person throwing darts at a dartboard. You hope you throw it and hope one sticks.
You don't see Kriens' apartment here. It's like this whole wall here is just covered with players.
Well, he must be pretty goddamn accurate because he's dropped Delaney Walker 3 times already. Wherever he's throwing, he must have 7 pictures of Delaney Walker up here. I think, Jack, did you finally pick him up?
Delaney Walker?
Delaney Walker.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have him.
Don't drop him.
I'm not going to. He's been solid this week. If he had Jake Locker, I can't believe I'm saying this, if he had Jake Locker as his quarterback, he would be getting a lot more points. I mean, 2 receptions, come on, man. But 55 yards, yeah, I'm not dropping him. He is my, well, you know what? I do have Jordan Cameron. He had a big game this week. So Walker might go on my bench, but he is. I'm definitely not getting rid of Walker.
Yeah, you can search by team here. Team Boynton 6.
Team Boynton.
Team Bouillatan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The trade to me, I think.
The trade, RB trade.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 28, 21, 22,
Wow,
23,
Jesus.
24, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
It's
30.
146
1, 2, 3,
moves.
4, 5, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 50, 3, 4, 5. That's his draft. He's had about 52 moves thus far through 6 weeks. So on pace for 100. We'll see if he gets there. More yards for dipshit or
More passing yards for
Leichner, whatever his name is.
Leitner, yeah.
Leitner. Or more ad drops for Boynton. Or more stupid moves by Peterson. We'll see. More kids for Peterson or ad drops.
Still going to take ad drops, although it's early. Well, we won't know for 9 months.
Very good. Very good.
Very good.
Mr. Traxer making a stop in the big city.
Yep.
Mr. Holiday sitting on his bed. Mr. Greenway, thank you for not violating that. You're welcome. I'm Travis Kriens. We'll preview the big Kentucky-Mississippi State matchup next week, and we'll talk Notre Dame, Florida State. So we appreciate the 2-hour version of the 87th edition of the Sports Lounge. Go.
Does that happen?
It's right there.
Oh, it's in here, yes.
Yes. Today, yeah, everybody left. Everybody left. I will stop.